with Keanu Reeves. Keanu, you're always great to talk to.
Oh, that's kind.
And it's always an honest conversation.
No.
Oh, right. I'll think of a better one. Jaws 2?
No.
I'll think of a better one. Jaws vs. E.T.?
No.
I don't look like you. You look like me. This is a waste of time.
What was the best moment in bringing Shadow to this franchise to life?
I had a really great experience working on the role. I did like 4 or 5 voices. Oh, that's kind.
And it's always an honest conversation, an interesting conversation, but really surprising answers. Everybody loves seeing you.
All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do a really fascinating one, I think. We're going to dive deep into the life and career of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, this will be fun.
And we're pulling from a pretty incredible article titled Keanu Reeves, Life, Loss, and Hollywood Journey.
Sounds promising.
And, our mission today is to really understand those key elements that have just made him who he is.
Right.
Both the highs, the lows, all those things in between that we can all relate to.
Absolutely.
And hopefully in doing so, our listeners can learn something from his life and his experiences. So let's get right into it. Keanu Reeves, he was born on September 2, 1964.
Okay.
In Beirut, Lebanon.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And his name, Keanu, it's Hawaiian.
Oh, okay.
It means cool breeze over the mountains.
Yeah, that is very fitting, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. And his mother, Patricia Taylor, was an English costume designer.
Okay.
And his father, Samuel Reeves, was a Hawaiian Chinese geologist.
Wow, quite a mix there.
Yeah, for sure. And they met in Beirut while his father was working there and his mother was performing.
Huh. So right from the start, you've got this really interesting kind of global creative blend going on.
Right.
Okay. So early life, though, the article paints a picture of quite a bit of change.
Yeah, his parents divorced when he was just 2 years old. And his father wasn't really a consistent presence in his life.
Okay.
He struggled with addiction, was arrested for selling heroin, and Keanu last saw him when he was just 13.
Wow. That's got to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine that, as a child, having that kind of instability in those early years.
Yeah, it definitely shapes you. Makes you really adaptable.
For sure. So Keanu was raised primarily by his mother. She worked really hard in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And they moved around quite a bit. They lived in Sydney, New York, and then eventually settled in Toronto.
So a lot of moving, different schools, different cultures.
Exactly, yeah. Constantly adapting to new environments.
Right.
It must have been really tough. And even when they settled in Toronto, things weren't exactly stable.
Really?
His mother remarried several times.
Wow.
First to a stage and film director, then a rock promoter, then a hairdresser.
Okay, so each new marriage is like a whole new world for him to adjust to.
Absolutely. He attended 4 different high schools in just 5 years.
Oh, that's a lot of change, especially during those formative years.
Right. And then on top of that, he had dyslexia.
Oh, wow. So that adds another layer of challenge to schooling.
Exactly. And he was actually expelled from high school.
Okay.
So, thinking about all those disruptions and challenges,
Yeah.
it really makes you wonder, how does someone thrive in that kind of environment?
Right. It seems like everything's working against him. But the article mentions he found a real passion. Hockey.
Oh, yeah. He was really into hockey in Toronto.
Apparently he was really good, too.
He was good enough to even consider trying out for the Windsor Spitfires in the Ontario Hockey League.
Really? That's a big deal. A potential professional path right there.
It was, yeah. But then, unfortunately, he suffered a serious injury, and that dream, kind of came to an end.
Oh, that's a tough break.
Yeah, a major setback.
But in a way, maybe it opened up this other path,
Yeah, you could say so.
Yeah.
Because by 17, he left high school to pursue acting.
Wow. So he just dove right in, head first.
Yeah. It seems like all that change in his early life, in a strange way, it prepared him for the uncertainty of the acting world.
Right. You have to be adaptable.
Exactly. And even though his hockey career was cut short, the article kind of points out that those qualities he developed on the ice, the discipline, teamwork, and perseverance, they probably stayed with him.
Right. Those are valuable skills no matter what you do.
Yeah. And he actually still enjoys playing hockey recreationally, so it's obviously something that still resonates with him.
I can see that.
So his very first acting role, it was actually in 1984. It was a small part in a Canadian TV series called Hanging In. a CBC comedy.
Yeah.
Just to start. Around the same time, he also did a Coca-Cola commercial.
Oh, wow. Classic.
Yeah, just one of his first experiences being in front of a camera.
Right.
And then he even worked as a correspondent for a CBC youth series called Going Grade.
Really?
Yeah, where he interviewed people and presented stories.
Huh. So he's getting some diverse experience early on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then came stage acting in 1985. He played Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet at the Leah Poslan's Theater in North York.
Okay, so now he's doing classical theater.
Yeah, which is, a totally different kind of skill set and understanding of character.
Right.
It definitely adds to his development as an actor. And there's this interesting tidbit. Around this time, he considered changing his name.
Really?
Yeah, thinking Keanu Reeves was maybe too unusual for Hollywood.
I guess it does stand out.
It does, but ultimately he decided against it.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, he stuck with who he was. In 1986, he landed a role in River's Edge,
River's Edge. Okay.
which is a pretty dark crime drama that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
It was a big step away from lighter teen roles.
Right.
And it really demonstrated his ability to tackle serious dramatic material.
Okay.
In River's Edge, he played Matt, who's this friend grappling with the fact that another friend committed a murder.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
Yeah, and his performance got noticed. And then in 1988, he got his first major leading role in Permanent Record.
Permanent Record. Okay.
And this film dealt with the sensitive topic of teenage suicide.
Wow.
He played Chris Townsend, who is this character struggling with the unexpected death of his best friend.
So again, some really intense, emotionally challenging roles early on.
Yeah. And the critics started to recognize, a real depth in his acting.
He's proving himself beyond just, like, the teen heartthrob image.
Right. But then, of course, came the role that launched him into superstardom. Ted Theodore Logan in 1989's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure
Oh, yeah, the one and only.
with Alex Winter.
A classic.
An absolute classic. And, who would have thought that a movie about time-traveling slackers would become such a cultural phenomenon?
Right. I mean, it's wild. It's just one of those movies that really captured the zeitgeist.
It did. And the article mentions that Keanu and Alex, they had this really genuine chemistry on set. They clicked instantly
Yeah, you can tell.
over shared interests like bass guitars and motorcycles.
Oh, cool. So that camaraderie you see on screen, it was real.
Yeah. And Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was a surprise hit,
It really was.
a massive success.
Yeah.
And, it turned those characters into icons.
Absolutely. Excellent. And whoa, instant classics.
But with that level of fame for such a specific role, the challenge then becomes typecasting.
Right.
People started to see him primarily as Ted, this lovable but goofy teenager.
Yeah.
And there were questions about whether he could actually handle more serious roles.
Sure. Can he do more than just be the funny guy?
But he was determined to break free from that mold.
And how did he do that?
Well, in 1991, he starred in Point Break,
Point Break. Okay.
where he played Johnny Utah,
Okay.
who is this FBI agent going undercover to infiltrate a gang of surfing bank robbers led by Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. So, a totally different side of Keanu, this high-octane action role,
Okay.
really showcased his range.
And the dynamic between him and Swayze, that must have been something else.
Oh, yeah. Their chemistry was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the surfing, the action sequences, just really thrilling to watch.
So Point Break proved he could carry an action film.
It did. Big time.
Hmm.
And then, in 1994, there was Speed,
Oh, yeah. Speed,
another classic.
which really took his action star status to a whole new level.
Okay.
That simple but brilliant premise of a bomb on a bus that's armed to explode if the speed drops below 50 miles per hour.
Right. So much tension.
Yeah. And he played Jack Traven, the resourceful, brave cop who's trying to save everyone on board.
And his on-screen partnership with Sandra Bullock, who played a passenger who ends up having to drive the bus.
I mean, talk about pressure.
Yeah. It just added this human element to the whole crazy situation.
And did it do well?
Oh, it was a huge box office hit.
Of course it was.
Yeah. Cementing him as a bona fide action star.
So in just a few years, he went from Bill and Ted to, action hero. That's a pretty impressive transition.
Right, yeah. But here's the thing. Same year as Point Break, 1991, he also took on a completely different role in My Own Private Idaho.
Oh, yeah. My Own Private Idaho, Gus Van Sant's film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he starred alongside his close friend, River Phoenix.
Oh, right, right.
And this was a world away from action films. It was a really raw, emotionally powerful story about two young street hustlers
Okay.
searching for connection and belonging. And Keanu played Scott Favor, who's this wealthy young man who's rejected his privileged background.
Wow, so a very different character from what we'd seen before.
Yeah, it was a complex, layered performance.
And critics loved it.
They did. They praised his vulnerability and the depth he brought to the role.
It's like he's intentionally choosing these roles that are so different from each other.
He is, yeah. But of course, not everything is a hit. You know, the mid-90s, he had a few films that didn't do so well.
Yeah, that happens.
Like Johnny Mnemonic in 1995
Okay.
and Chain Reaction in 1996.
Right.
They didn't perform well at the box office.
Happens to the best of them.
Yeah. And it kind of led some people to wonder, you know, could he really sustain a career as a leading man outside of action franchises?
It's a tough business.
It is.
But then came The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
The
Matrix.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it didn't just revitalize his career. It kind of changed cinema.
Wait, really did.
I mean, directed by the Wachowskis, you know, it presented this dystopian world where reality is a computer simulation.
Right.
And he played Neo, this computer hacker who discovers the truth
Right.
and becomes, like, humanity's potential savior.
It was just mind-blowing at the time.
The visual effects were revolutionary.
Yeah.
The bullet time, everything.
Yeah. But it was more than just spectacle.
Right.
It delved into some really deep philosophical ideas about reality, free will versus fate, consciousness.
It made you think.
Yeah. And Keanu, he was so committed to the role, he trained for months in martial arts, learning wushu and kung fu.
So he could do those incredible stunts.
Yeah. And The Matrix was a massive global success, earning over $463 million worldwide.
Wow.
And Neo became an instant icon.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there were the sequels, The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions in 2003,
Right.
which just solidified his status as a global star.
And then years later, they even did The Matrix Resurrections in 2021.
Yeah, showing just how enduring the legacy of those films really is. But the article points out that in the years leading up to John Wick in 2014, his career had kind of plateaued.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was still a well-known actor, but some of his more recent projects hadn't really made a big impact.
It seemed like Hollywood wasn't quite sure what to do with it at that point.
Yeah, where does he fit in?
But then came John Wick, and it was a game changer.
John Wick, okay.
It wasn't just another action movie.
Right.
There was this really powerful emotional core rooted in loss and revenge. He played John Wick, who's this retired hitman.
Okay.
And he's pulled back into his old life when some criminals steal his car and, more importantly, kill his dog,
Oh, no.
which was a final gift from his recently deceased wife.
Oh, man.
So it's this simple act of cruelty that sets off this whole chain of incredibly intense events.
So it's more than just action. There's a real emotional hook.
Exactly. And the action was just, you know, visceral and expertly choreographed.
Right.
And that whole underground world of assassins with its own rules and codes, it was fascinating.
It was.
But getting the movie made wasn't easy.
Really?
The directors, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, they were first-timers. And a lot of studios were hesitant.
I guess so.
They weren't sure if Keanu could carry another action franchise.
But Lionsgate took a chance.
They did. And they acquired the rights pretty close to the release.
Wow.
And their marketing, it was really smart. They emphasized the film's unique style, the precision of the action, and Keanu in this role that seemed, you know, tailor-made for him.
Like it was meant to be.
It did. When John Wick came out, it just blew everyone away.
Yeah, it exceeded expectations.
Yeah, it got rave reviews and was a huge box office success.
Right.
And I think a big part of that was his physical commitment to the role.
Right.
He trained extensively in martial arts, weapons handling, stunt driving.
I mean, he's known for doing a lot of his own stunts.
Yeah, he did over 90% of his own stunts across all 4 John Wick films.
Wow. That's dedication.
Yeah. And the article even mentions Halle Berry, who co-starred in John Wick, Chapter 3. She went through this really intense training regimen, and she actually sustained some injuries, but she kept pushing through.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that level of commitment, it really shows on screen.
Yeah, the action feels real because it is real.
And so the first John Wick was a huge financial success.
Yeah.
And each sequel just got bigger and bigger.
Wow.
John Wick. Chapter 4, I think it made over $440 million at the global box office.
Wow, that's incredible.
But, you know, all that action takes a toll.
Right, it's got to be hard on the body.
And Keanu himself has said that while he's still passionate about playing John Wick, His body, especially his knees, might not be up for it forever.
Yeah, you can only push yourself so far.
And this makes you think about, those physical demands on actors in these kinds of roles.
It does. And how long they can realistically keep doing it.
Yeah. So as of now, a fifth John Wick film is uncertain.
Okay.
But he's not done with that universe completely. He's filmed a cameo for Ballerina.
Ballerina?
Yeah, it's a spin-off movie that's set to be released in 2025.
Okay.
So he's still connected to this world that he helped create.
I can see him being involved in that, even if he's not the main character.
Right. And shifting gears a little bit, the article also talks about the immense personal losses that Keanu has endured.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't talk about his life without acknowledging that.
One of the most devastating was the death of his close friend, River Phoenix, in 1993,
Right.
from a drug overdose.
Yeah, that was a huge loss.
They became really close while filming My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah, you can imagine.
And, losing someone you're that close to, it's just incredibly difficult.
It's heartbreaking, and the details of what happened, it's just so tragic.
Yeah. And then a few years later, he started a relationship with Jennifer Syme.
Jennifer Syme, right.
They fell deeply in love.
Okay.
And in 1999, they were expecting their first child,
Okay.
a daughter they named Ava Archer Syme Reeves.
Wow.
But tragically, their daughter was stillborn
Oh, no.
right around Christmas that year.
Oh, that's devastating.
Yeah, unimaginable.
And the grief, it put a strain on their relationship.
Yeah.
They ended up separating.
They did. And then in 2001, Jennifer died in a car accident.
Oh, man. To lose a child and then a partner.
It's almost too much to comprehend.
It really is. It makes you wonder how anyone copes with that kind of grief.
Yeah. The article also talks about his sister, Kim.
Okay.
She was diagnosed with leukemia in 1991.
Oh, wow.
And for almost a decade, Keanu was her primary caregiver.
Really?
He reportedly paused his career at times to be by her side.
Wow. That's dedication.
He supported her through treatments, made sure she had the best possible care.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that really speaks to someone's character.
Yeah. And it seems like all those years of personal hardship really shaped his outlook and his priorities.
Okay.
Because since around 2004, he's been running a private charitable foundation
Really?
that supports cancer research and children's hospitals.
That's amazing.
But he keeps it very low-key. He doesn't attach his name to it.
He's not doing it for the publicity.
No.
Mm.
He just wants the focus to be on the cause.
Yeah, that's pretty admirable.
Yeah. And in a 2009 interview, he briefly mentioned the foundation and said that he prefers to keep his name out of it. Just let the foundation do its work.
Wow.
And his generosity goes beyond just his own foundation.
Okay.
He's participated in stand-up to cancer events, answering phones to raise money.
Really?
Yeah. He's been involved in so many different charities.
And always kind of under the radar.
Yeah, he's not looking for recognition.
No.
And what's really heartwarming is that there are all these stories about his everyday acts of kindness.
Like what?
Like sharing food and conversation with a homeless person, stopping to help someone with a broken down car, even just giving up his seat on the subway to someone who needs it more.
Yeah, those small acts of kindness, they really make a difference.
They do, yeah. And his generosity extends to people he works with in the film industry, too.
Okay.
During the Matrix sequels, he actually gave up a huge portion of his earnings,
Really?
like around $75 million, so that the special effects and costume teams could be paid more.
That is incredible.
Yeah, he recognized how much they contributed to the film's success.
And he wanted to make sure they were taken care of.
Exactly. So selfless.
Yeah.
And after the huge success of the first Matrix, he reportedly gave a bonus of almost $1 million to each member of the visual effects and post-production crew.
Wow. You almost never hear about that kind of generosity in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he's been known to take pay cuts on other projects so they could hire more people or certain actors.
He's really putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Keanu's life and journey, what are some of the big takeaways? I mean, his story is filled with both incredible highs and devastating lows.
Yeah. It's a reminder that life is full of both, you know?
Yeah. And he's shown this incredible resilience, adapting to so much change, navigating the ups and downs of Hollywood.
And facing those personal tragedies with such grace.
Yeah. And his dedication to his craft is really inspiring. I mean, his commitment to mastering those physical demands for his roles, his willingness to take on such different characters, it's amazing.
And through it all, he's remained so grounded, so generous.
Yeah. It's really a testament to the strength of the human spirit.
It is.
And I think it leaves us with some questions to ponder, like thinking about those intense physical demands of his action roles. How do actors in those kinds of genres navigate the challenges of a long career while still giving those authentic, powerful performances that audiences love?
Right. It's a tough balance.
And Keanu's example of quiet, unassuming philanthropy, it really challenges how we think about celebrity and the potential for making a real difference in the world. Something we could all learn from.
I agree. It's food for thought for sure.
Yeah, definitely.